800-951-0592. Joe and Jason, Patriot Radio News Hour. This is White's Ratings updating banks. So they have what they call grades A through E. Obviously, E is F. But they what they call red, yellow, green. Red is, hey, anybody starts pulling money, this bank's done. In other words, they're totally insolvent. That's red. Now, in the red, I will say this. All of the E ratings were credit unions. And just to point that out. Now, again, we've talked about credit unions a little bit in the past. They're a little different than banks. They operate a little differently. And the problem with the credit unions, really, it just ends up being size or lack thereof that gets them into trouble. But there are 79 of those, okay? 79 credit unions, and these are going to be mostly super small ones. The banks, these are what they call Ds. D minus to D plus. 604. So you add the two together. That's 683 banks out of the 4,000, a little over 4,000 plus. Because you got to remember, some of these banks, they say our banks aren't banks, Schwab, things of that nature. But anyway, those are the ones that are already there. But then they have what they call yellow. In yellow, 1,959 banks. So yellow is, hey, any hiccup, recession, commercial real estate, just anything like that, interest rates go too high, these banks are done. That brings the total to over 2,640 banks. So again, the new number, if you will, is now well over half of these banks. In other words, what Weiss is trying to say is, hey, these banks right now probably technically are insolvent, but they get the mark-to-market. As long as things don't get any worse, then they can stay in this yellow category. But, Jason, it is a pretty significant amount. Now, nobody should have more than $250,000 in a bank. Nobody. And I don't care what bank it is. This next debate is going to be about what if I'm under the 250. And I'm not talking about, hey, you got $5,000 in the bank or $10,000 in the bank. We're not talking about you. We're talking about, hey, I've got $250,000. I've got $200,000. Maybe I got $100,000, $150,000. I've got some big money in this bank, but I'm under the amount. That's the debate. Jason, let's play the clip, and then Jason and I will give our thoughts.
$250,000 in a bank account, especially if you're an individual, maybe businesses, I understand. But you're going to get your money back. Now, how much your money is worth in the end is another story. But don't pull your money out because you're going to get that money if it fails. Right?
Yeah, we don't. First off, we don't want to cause panic, right?
Yes.
That's why the FDIC, who understood that a lot of the problems with these recent bank failures were they had a lot of uninsured accounts, right? That means they were over to $250,000. But the first thing is, don't hedge your bets. Don't think that the FDIC has the capital to cover everybody because they don't. Right? When they came out and said, we're going to cover all accounts and over the $250,000. They're just paying lip service. That's exactly what they're doing.
I think they'll print the money. That's why I say I wonder how much it'll be worth in the end, but they'll just print it.
So it's not the FDIC that will bail them out. It will be the U.S. Treasury.
Correct.
Right?
Yes.
That will bail them out. Yeah.
Right.
That's the first part, Joe. Do you want to continue or stop there?
So no. Let's have that debate here. So first of all, you hear from White's ratings, hey, the FDIC doesn't have the money. You heard that plain as day. They don't have the money. Now, Glenn Beck, and I think he's wrong, but okay, let's go with he's right. The Treasury will come and give you the money. Now, he does say, in fairness to his defense, it won't be worth anything, but they'll give it to you. So right now, let me tell you the rule as it's set right now. The Treasury and the FDIC have an agreement. The FDIC has a $100 billion line of credit with the Treasury. Now, they passed the debt ceiling, so they can actually use it now. Because remember, last week, the Treasury didn't have $100 billion to give. But anyway, they do now. But that's it. So the FDIC, they had a fund with $128 billion in it. That fund now doesn't, it has, I don't know, maybe $50 billion, something like that, whatever it may be. By the way, Signature Bank, apparently the losses there are going to be greater than what the FDIC thought, but that's another show. They've got another $100 billion with the FDIC. Well, I just told you that according to White's, 2,642 banks got a problem. Now, that only leaves 1,987 banks that don't have a problem. And again, you got to remember what White said. Well, they don't have a problem now. Right? Now, the question is, will the Treasury print the money? So let me ask you, because this is what you have to decide. Okay? We know for a fact that there's roughly $10 trillion of insured deposits. Okay? $10 trillion. Now, we know if one bank, right, that we know how the banking game works. We already know, right? If they didn't do something with Silicon Valley Bank, the whole banking system was done, right? So they're all, is the Treasury going to print $10 trillion? Because what we're saying is take the national debt and add $10 trillion. Now, they could do something and say, hey, maybe the Treasury only has to print $1 trillion, or maybe the Treasury only has to print $2 trillion, right? Whatever that number is, you've got to weigh what is the likelihood that that will happen, number one. And then number two, to Glenn Beck's point, gosh, if they do it, and of course, you got to remember, think about what the national debt would be that year. Could we have a national debt of 5, 6, 8, 12, 14 trillion if they all had to bail them all out? That would be the question. And of course, at that point, Jason, what good would it have been to keep it in there if it doesn't buy anything?
I think I know what's going to happen. And I have a problem with all this speaking about the Treasury printing anything. They haven't printed any money since 1963. But I have a feeling I know what's going to happen. So we'll hit the break. I'll give you my take, Joe, which I think I know what's going to happen. I think it's kind of written on the wall.
Okay. So, when we get back, Jason thinks he knows. That's coming up next.
Welcome back. This is the Patriot Radio News Hour, and we were talking about Dallas Brown and Glenn Beck talking about the ratings of these banks, and Joe posed the question, you talk about, Glenn Beck's, the Treasury will just print it, and that's the one thing that Glenn Beck said that was kind of silly to me, and any of these people, the Treasury doesn't print anything. They borrow it, right? So, but that aside, the question really is Dallas Brown, Joe has said this many times, that we all understand that the FDIC doesn't have enough money to cover those that are under $250,000. They just don't have it, right? But money is just an idea. You can make this up as you go along, and I think I know what's going to happen, Joe. I think it's kind of easy. Let me make it an easy example for the average dude out there. You got a guy working the 9 to 5. He's got his family, everything. He's got, a couple $1,000s in savings, and he's dealing with a couple $1,000s in his checking. That's how all his money works, right? Maybe he's got a savings or something in there that's really building up for retirement. And there's 10 or 15,000, 20,000, a low amount of money, which should be insured. But the banks fail. FDIC can't pay. How are we going to fix this? This guy's account just got frozen, and now he's been told, well, we're working on it, but you won't have access to your funds for 90 days. That guy is going to go into foreclosure. You won't be able to pay his car loans. This average guy out there, you could be the guy listening, he's in panic, right? And this is when the Fed rolls out its digital currency and says, look, you can wait to see if your private bank can fix this thing for you, or you can just sign your account right into the Fed digital currency, and you'll have your funds immediately transferred, and you'll be ready to use your money. I think this is the way they're going to do it, Joe. I think if the fake money, as fraudulent as it is, it's sitting in the bank account. It's just the bank is the one that's failing, right? So the money exists. I guess the bank's assets don't work. So, yeah, they need to use those depositors to shore up their bad investments. But the Fed doesn't care about that. They care about their digital currency. Joe, I think this is, like I said, they got to play the hero in a horrible situation, and we're building up to the horrible situation. And it's going to be another one of those, how much freedom can you afford? Can you afford to stay with your private bank? Because this is going to be a privatization of the banks. And I've seen it with healthcare. People that are on government healthcare, they're treated like second-rate citizens at hospitals and at doctors' offices. Or you have your private health insurance, you get treated a little better. I think this is the way they're going to put digital currency in, Joe. They can cover everybody's losses under $250, and they're going to get a huge public response that's positive. The Fed's not bailing out the banks; they're bailing out us. That's how I see it, Joe.
Interesting. And you know what? I think that's something where, and I think I'm in the minority, right? Where, hey, they're not gonna what they're gonna do, and I've said this over and over. Hey, you had $200,000 in there, but you know what? You've had $200,000 in here for like 5 years, 10 years. You obviously don't need it, right? We're gonna give you. They're gonna set an amount. Here's $10,000. Right, you got $10,000 to pay all your bills and do all this and that. And if you got, if you're under a certain amount, we'll have access to it. You post. You got to remember, 65% of the country lives paycheck to paycheck, which really means, hey, I really don't have a lot of money in the. Even when I got money, I'm going to write checks or have it, taken out of my account almost immediately, right? Because the mortgage is due on the 1st, and I got insurance, I got a car payment, right? But at the end of the month, I'm living paycheck to paycheck. It's for all the rest of the money. It's going to be one of two things. They're either going to lock your money up and hand you a slip of paper that says, hey, it's still your money. You just can't have it right now. But we'll let you know later when you can. Or, to Glenn or Jason's point, hey, we're going to figure out a way to give you the money. The question's going to be, what is that money going to be worth? And I think everybody out there will know, right? And to Jason's point, I think what they'll say is, we could do the Glenn Beck thing. Oh, my gosh, but holy smokes. That $250,000, that would be like now you maybe have like $100,000, right? Because that's how the buying power will be so much less. But if you come over to our bank, the new Fed bank, the digital bank, yeah, it's going to be worth less. Okay, but instead of it only buying, $150,000, so it's still more. So which one do you want?
Right? Or Joe, it could be simpler. It could be simpler. They could say, "Hey, look, your private bank it might be completely washed out. We can't guarantee any of your money." And they might just say, "Well, we'll offer you 75% of your funds right now. You sign the line, or you risk zero by staying with your private institution." It could be something that simple, Joe. You lose 25% right off the top.
That one actually probably makes the most sense that I've heard.
It's a Wonderful Life, Joe. In A Wonderful Life,
need to get paid. These
bad the market crash happened.
To your point,
in the market crash and It's a Wonderful Life, George Bailey comes running in there. He's supposed to be going on his honeymoon, and he goes in there, and this is the crash. They had the doors locked. They let everyone in, and here comes the guy running. Hey, Potter's giving 50% on everyone's shares. And the guy's like, well, 50% is better than none, and people start leaving to go get in, and George Bailey has to talk everyone out. He's like, look, he's not selling, he's buying. He's taking all your assets. And that's, so that either way, Joe, whether they devalue the Fed coin when you go in there or they just give you a smaller amount going in to begin with, either way, you're going to lose. And this is why I don't trust the banks. They're going to have their emergency, Joe. They're going to have it. And I don't know what's going to bring it on, if it's going to be a geopolitical emergency or if it's just going to be an all-out economic emergency. But they will get their pound of flesh, Joe.
Yeah, and again, we will keep you updated. The disturbing news from Weiss was the amount of banks which they say are already red. Well over 600 banks that are totally insolvent. that any depositor outflow would ruin those banks. And then, of course, another 1,900 plus banks that what they're calling code yellow, which means, hey, anything, commercial real estate, recession, you name it, interest rates go too high, all of those banks would then be code red. When we get back, we're going to help you stack your portfolio. Believe me, it's better in gold and silver than it is sitting in that bank account. Patriot Radio News Hour. We're going to wrap it up right after the break. $800-951-0592. Gold's up 1965. Silver just jumped into positive territory, $23.65. I don't know. I will tell you, I don't know. Here's what I do know. The FDIC doesn't have the money, period. And to Jason's point, the Treasury doesn't print money. It borrows money. Now, is it safe? Absolutely not. Does that make you feel safe? No. Now, listen, if the Treasury had, if the FDIC had, I don't know, a couple $1 trillion, I'd feel pretty safe. The fact of the matter is, they got like $50 billion, if that right now, with a $100 billion credit line. That's it. You need to cover yourself, because I'm telling you right now, these banks are not safe. There's another wave coming. This wave is significant, and I hope you prepare at this point. Right now, I got two great items. The $10 Liberties. Listen, this is the buy. If you're talking about what gold do I buy, it's $10 Liberties. I know you're like, but Joe, you've been saying that for months. I know. I don't control it. It's just the best buy out there. $1,125. You buy 20 or more, $1,120. Silver. We did this, I think, a week and a half ago. We blew them out. We're doing it one more time. I've got about 300 rolls of $50. $50, the same price as dimes and quarters, and you know that doesn't, of course, it's happened twice in the last 10 days, but believe me, this is rare. Rolls of $50 at $250 a roll. So you got your silver, right? That's 20 silver $50. Great barterable material. And then you got the $10 Liberties, right? $1,125. 20 or more, $1,120. And like I said, the $50 at $250, that's your silver item at 800-951-0592. And I think that, Brown laid it out pretty good. Man, I don't know what the Fed's going to do in 2 weeks. I really don't. But based on this, I gotta believe it's a pause. But I don't know. And again, the higher the rates go, and Jason's like, no, Joe, no, it's not. The higher the rates go, the more of these banks go into the red column. The more of the banks that are green will go into the yellow column. We'll have to wait and see, though, won't we, Jason? I don't hear Jason, so I'm not sure what's up. So
I'm here. I'm here.
There you go. Yeah.
1,210 banks in the red. 1,210 banks in the red. That's what he said. I don't even know if we got to that part of the video.
Did I do bad? I probably did bad.
On the last segment, you said 600. It's like, wait a minute. There's 1,210 in the red, and there's over 3,000 in yellow and red. So it's over half the banks. And he mentions we'll see with Steve Stars what we're going to play. We might have the back part of the video for the next hour, but. They admit, hey, if the red banks go under and there's a run, the yellow banks fall. They just say that outright. So yeah, Joe is right. Over half the banks, and maybe they don't all fall, but they're going to need extreme measures to float. And that means I'm going to go back to it. I think the 722 that the Fed identified last year, I think all those are gone in the next 5 years, Joe. That's just what I think.
800-951-0592. You've heard the evidence, right? So I'm not saying this. This is just what it is. What are you going to do about it, I guess, is the big question. What is everybody going to do about it? Patriot Radio News Hour. God bless everybody. Jason and I, we're coming right back with the half-empty cup.